All right, folks, there's a report out there today as I welcome you back and just remind you that coming up in the next segment, we'll be joined by the Consul General here in New York from the State of Israel for the latest on the situation in the Gaza. There's a report out, actually, and it's according to the Wall Street Journal and posted on Breitbart, that at a Christian Science Monitor breakfast, Paul Ryan said that even if the president were to grant amnesty and sign that much anticipated executive order regarding immigration reform, quote unquote, because Congress won't do it, so he's got to do it, that would not be high crimes and misdemeanors. And it's very disappointing to hear Paul Ryan say that and basically give cover to the President of the United States to go ahead and do it. I mean, why would you weigh in on it? If you don't want to use the impeachment word, if you don't want to say it's impeachable, if you don't want to even raise the specter of it and say it might be impeachable, or we'd have to see the scope of it, or, you know, you could get away with even saying the I word without even committing to anything by saying we'd have to see the scope of the executive order. We'd have to see the scope of how far it goes. We'd have to see what he... But to say it would not be. It would not be. When you talk about violating the public trust in such a way, when the polls are against it, when the Congress of the United States is against it, and when a president then takes on... I mean, we're not talking about, you know, a minor detail here, a minor detail there. We're talking about a sea change, if he does it, that will impact every aspect of life in this country. Just like the Democrats went about it, albeit legislatively, with Obamacare, and shut out the Republicans, totally shut out the Republicans, and passed that monstrosity without one single Republican vote. That's legal. They went through the legislative process. They had the votes. They twisted arms. They bribed. They did whatever. I don't know what they did, but they did it legally. They did it the way, at least structurally and legislatively, it's supposed to be done. But for the president to embark on radical immigration doctrine because, well, the Congress won't do it, and something of that, the scope of what we're hearing the scope could be, and for Paul Ryan in advance of that, if this report is accurate, if I'm reading it accurately, to say, well, that wouldn't be high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, I'm not saying it is, but I'm not saying it's not. And for him to tip his hand, for him to come out there, it just smacks of what Bill Kristol, who was with us earlier, said. That Republicans are just at all costs, the consensus is, run away from the I word at all costs. Don't utter it, don't say it, don't stand near it. If you see it on the subway or the street, cross the street, go to the other side. And as Kristol said, and I agree, I'm not so sure that's a good idea. Now, neither Kristol nor I are saying impeach the president. We're not saying that. Ooh, I uttered the words impeach the president, but I said I'm not saying that. But to run away from it to the point where you say, oh, yeah, well, if the president legalizes 6 million illegals tomorrow, you know, it's not a high crime or misdemeanor. Why don't we wait? Why don't we wait before we sign off on it and give the president all the more encouragement to do it? Now, this president might be encouraged more so if Paul Ryan had said, yes, it would be impeachable. He might do it tomorrow. But you can't get caught up inside Barack Obama's head. We're a nation of laws, and separation of powers is vital to the survival of our country as we know it. And I know Barack Obama ran on change, radical change. And he has instituted radical change. But if you think you've seen it, I hate to quote him again, but you ain't seen nothing yet. And I'm very disappointed in Paul Ryan, yet I'm sorry to say not surprised. Not surprised. So what can I tell you? And you know, my friend Andy McCarthy weighed in and said that contrary to some less than informed opinion, it's not something that's necessarily indictable, high crimes and misdemeanors. All right, we'll be back with the ambassador to Israel, the consul general. But first, some basic investing tips with your Max 2 Money Moment.
We never know when interest rates will shoot up, but they can't stay near record lows forever. So if you're investing in bonds, now is a good time to start thinking about playing defense and making changes to your financial future.
Well, we all hear now is a great time to buy a home because interest rates are so low. But we all know that at some point down the road in the future, we don't know when interest rates are going to rise. Interest rates and bonds have an inverse relationship. As interest rates go up, the value of the bond goes down. So the reason you really want to look at the bonds in your portfolio right now is to understand how you're positioned for a rising interest rate environment.
If retirement is around the corner, be careful with your bond selection. Understand what individual bonds you own, as well as bond mutual funds. Then talk with your financial advisor to figure out the best strategy for you and your family. I'm Hannah Ostapchuk.
Get more money news at Newsmax.com.